Well, thank you for joining us so much on the Big Church Read. My name is Toby, and thank you for reading my chapter. When I began writing this, I guess I just thought a little bit about my own story and a little bit about the life I live now. I'm an Anglican priest in the Church of England, and I've ministered in the city, which means there's many buildings where you have heavy populations of streets of people walking past the church yet never crossing the threshold because they don't know if that space is for them. And yet we live in a moment where we are so shrouded by noise and distraction. It's amazing that our church buildings are some of the only spaces of silence and reflection. And I wrote this chapter with the intention of making people think creatively about how an invitation into a church space now is an invitation to an encounter with God. And that was very much my own story, as you will read in the book, that I grew up not thinking that the church was a suitable place for me. I was just a little bit too fidgety, a little bit too loud, and needed to express my energies, and that the church wasn't a place I could do that. And yet it is the same God that says, bring to me the little children, who invites each and every one of us in the pureness of all we are into the church space. And so therefore it is our responsibility as Christians to help people cross the threshold with an invitation. Nowadays in ministry, I do that as an Anglican priest, and I work across all of East London in a diversity of churches. And that threshold looks like many different things. Actually, only last week was I out on the streets of a market actually near to where I'm filming this video today, inviting people into the church. And I was struck by one woman who had come to the UK from Ukraine really recently. She had no relational networks. And when I said, would you like to come into the church? She said, oh, do I have to confess my sins? And I said, no, you can just come into the space. I took her down, and in a moment of talking with her, I could see it welling up in her eyes. That really struck me. And I said, is everything okay? And she kind of shook her head at me. And I took her over to the father, to the priest. And she said, oh, is this the moment where I have to confess my sins? And we said, no, but we'd just love to listen to what God is, what's going on in your life. And as she went to leave the building, it took her a while to leave because she wasn't sure whether she wanted to leave or not, because what she had encountered in that space was the love and welcome of God in all his generosity. And so as you read this chapter, I suppose the question for you is to be thinking about what are the spaces in your life where God meets you, and yet also what are the spaces in your life where you can invite others to meet with God.